Chloe, can you turn your flashing light off? It is actually really obvious in the camera. I didn't realize before. Thank you. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you day 15 of my Vlogmas 2023 series. This video is titled A Rose by Any Other Name, and essentially what it is it's makeup products with the same shade name within my collection. Please note that this only includes products from my original 2023 makeup inventory, which I'll have linked up in the cards. Any of the new stuff has not yet been included, so I haven't included it in this video. But needless to say, we have a lot to go through regardless. So let's get started with my first lot of products. First up, we have the shade name Aura, and I actually have 3 things that have that name. I have these 2 lip products, a lipstick and a lip liner. Both of these are from OXX and are actually in a very similar shade. And I also have a shadow from my Beauty Bay Nikki Tutorials palette. And this is it right here. So as you can see, that one is a little bit different. Let me give you some swatches. First up, we have the lip liner. I am yet to use this product, but it is a burgundy red, very similar to the top I'm currently wearing. And I'm pretty sure that this liquid lipstick is similar, as these 2 did come in a kit. Yes, it is the same shade just there. But I do know that Aura from this Nikki Tutorials palette is a lot different. It's a lot more orangey rather than red. So let me give you a swatch. That is it right there. So it is still in the red category, the warm category, but it is a lot different. Though I would say that if you had this shadow on your eyes, this lipstick combo would definitely work quite well. Then we have the shade Berry Ice, and we have a shade with that name in both these palettes. This is the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, and this is the I Heart Revolution Frozen Raspberries palette. So from the Frozen Raspberry palette, Berry Ice is this one over here. And it is probably kind of similar. No, it's a lot lighter in the Maybelline palette. It is this one down here that has pan in it. You would have seen it in my products I have pan on video. I'll have that linked up in the cards. And this is Awkward, but let me give you some swatches. First up, from the Berry Ice palette, it is a very pinky shade. That is it right there. It's a deeper pink shade, while the one from the Maybelline palette is definitely a lot lighter. Yeah, it's a more pastel pink shade. It is right there. I know you can't really see it. Definitely more of a, I guess, a blending out shade, or a lid setter type shade, setting your eye primer. Yes, a shade to set your eyeshadow primer with. So those are the 2 Berry Ice shades. Then also from my Frozen Raspberries palette, and also this Sample Beauty Equalizer Volume 1 palette, we have the shade Blue. In this Frozen Raspberries palette, it is this one down here. I'm actually just going to swatch it straight now. I'm changing the way I'm doing this video because it was getting too hard. So it's a purpley blue, a blurple is probably the correct term. And then over in my Equalizer palette, it is a lot more of a bright blue, and also it's more of a matte or a silk shade rather than a metallic or glitter shade. Yes, it is definitely a lot more blue in comparison. So this is blue from the Frozen Raspberries, and this is blue from the Sample Beauty palette. Then we have the shade Bubbles, which is coming from both of these palettes. We have the Beauty Bay Midnight palette and the W7 Whatever Totally Random palette. We'll start with the Totally Random palette, as this one still has its plastic on and it's a bit frustrating and annoying. But the shade Bubbles in this one is this warm, pinky, rusty red down here. Let me give that one a bit of a better swatch. It is that shade, this shade right here. Then over in my Midnight palette, Bubbles is this blue glitter metallic shade. These are definitely completely on the opposite spectrums of shade range and also formula. So this is a matte formula and this one is definitely a metallic blue color. I think if I was actually going to hear the word Bubbles, this more is the shade I would expect, or more like a holographic multi-chrome, multi-rainbow light, like almost like a translucent with multicolors in it. That would be more what I'd think of when I thought of Bubbles, but definitely not this pinky shade. That's not. Unless, no, because Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls is blue. So yeah, it's definitely not a shade I would pick for Bubbles. Then also from my Equalizer palette and the I Heart Revolution Cocoa Pebbles palette, we have the shade Cocoa, which, let me just move the plastic out of the way. From this palette here, this is the Cocoa Pebbles palette. From this palette here, it is, where is it? It is this shade over here. So it is a brown metallic. Oh wow, that is really pretty. A brown metallic bronzy shade. That is actually a gorgeous shade. So that's what it is from this palette. I am very interested to see what it looks like in this one. I do think it is also a metallic shade. It is. It's actually this one down here, which might be very similar, but maybe a bit cooler, a bit more taupey. Yeah, it is a very similar shade, but I'd say this one is slightly warmer. This one is slightly cooler. This one's got a touch more orange in it, and this one has a touch more taupe in it. So those are the two shades from these two palettes that are called Cocoa. Then we're back in my Totally Random palette from W7 and also the Techna Days palette from Beauty Bay. And we're looking at the shade Dazed. So let's pull it from the W7 palette first up. So in the W7 palette, Dazed is this brownie color over here. Very similar to the browns. It's got a very nice formula though. Very similar to those two browns we just pulled for Cocoa. That is it right there. It is a bronzy brown shade for the word Dazed. And then from my Techna Days palette, it is, where is it? It is actually this fluorescent pink color up here. This is definitely a lot different between the two palettes. This one here is Dazed and this one is also Dazed. It is rather amazing how one word, one shade name can have quite different color stories, I guess. Then we have the shade Doll, and they are from these two palettes. We have the Beauty Bay Berries palette and the I Heart Revolution Harley Quinn palette. The Berries palette, Doll is, I'm imagining it's going to be a real pink shade. Yep, it is this one up here. I would almost say that this is a stereotypical Barbie pink type color, or a bubblegum pink color. Maybe a dusty pink. I can definitely see Doll fitting that color. But let's have a look in my Harley Quinn palette. I have never used this palette before, so hence why it's still in its box. But let's have a look. Doll, it is, I think that's it down there. Very frustrating. The shade names are written on the plastic rather than on the packaging. But Doll is this green shade down here, this mint green. That is it right there. Oh, that is a gorgeous color. Definitely different, but I can see both these colors fitting the term Doll. However, I guess if you're looking at it from a Barbie doll style thing, this would be more the color that would fit. But this definitely is a color that fits from the Harley Quinn theme. Then we're back in the Cocoa Pebbles palette, as well as the Emily Edit The Wants palette. This is I Heart Revolution. This is just Revolution. And we're looking at the shade Family. So from the Cocoa Pebbles palette, it is, if I can find it, it is this deep dark metallic brown down here. Obviously this does have a kind of like a Cocoa Pop smell. I'm imagining that's what Cocoa Pebbles are. They're very Cocoa Popsy. This is the shade here. It's like a gunmetal grey is what I would explain it as, with a bit more of a brown undertone. Then from the Emily Edit palette, The Wants, Family is this purple shade over here. It is a matte shade, and it's kind of like a just a basic purple. That is it right there. That is not the best swatch, but that is what that shade looks like. Just from the swatches alone, I would say I'd prefer this one, but that is definitely not the best swatch I could have possibly done for this. Then for the shade Gin, we're back in the Frozen Raspberries and the Equalizer palette. We'll start with the Frozen Raspberries. So Gin is this silver blue shade down here. This palette smells like raspberries for sure. So this is this bright silvery blue for the shade Gin. And let's have a look in our Equalizer palette. In this palette, Gin is, where is it located? Over here. It is actually a white shade, a pure white matte shade. That is it right there. So that is Gin from the Equalizer palette. They're slightly different, but they still have, I guess, the same undertones and basic premise of being a light, white, bright, refreshing color. So the next shade is also a lipstick. So this is Glitz, and we also have a Glitz in this KVD Metal Matte palette. So this is the Revlon Metallic Matte HD Ultra HD lip color in the shade Glitz. You've seen this one recently in my lip service project pan. Have it linked in the cards. But you know that this is a bluey, blacky, sparkly lip product. That is it right there. And let's have a look and see what Glitz is in this metallic matte palette. Glitz is actually this shade here. So it is more of a peachy nudie, sparkly, metallic color. Very nice inner corner highlight. I think that this shade here fulfills what I would imagine glitz to be like, but I can see how this ended up with its name. But these are the two shades that are called glitz. Then we go back to my Revolution Emily Edit palette, as well as my Beauty Bay New Moods palette. And we are looking at the shade Grateful. So Grateful from the Emily Edit palette, the Once, is this bright green shade. Sorry, these mirrors can be really annoying when you're trying to film. Is this green shade up here. So this is that one there. It is a gorgeous bright green shade. And then from the New Moods palette, Grateful is a matte brown shade. This one just up here. So this is what New Moods Grateful looks like. So those are the two shades. I reckon they would actually go quite nicely together in an eyeshadow look. Is that something you would like to see me try at some point? Eyeshadow looks using, I guess, products with the same shade name, because I think these would go quite nicely. Then we have the shade Grunge, which comes from my Dark Fantasy palette, which is part of my Dude You Panned My Battleship project I'm doing with Samantha. I'll also have that linked up in the cards, as well as this Australis Colour Inject lipstick. Let me give you a swatch of the lipstick first. It is a purpley, I guess a purpley brown shade. That is it right there. And it does have a bit of an odd scent to it. And I do know these Colour Injects do have a little bit of a tingle. They are a bit lip plumping. Then from my Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette, Grunge is this purple shade down here. So that is it right there. I think it's very similar to that shade Family from the Emily Edit the Once palette, but this one isn't as patchy. So I don't know if that was just my swatching or whether it does come across a bit patchy. But these are these two shades for the color Grunge. I will say this Lip Inject, which I can actually feel tingling on my hand, is a bit more of a red purple or a burgundy style color. And this one here is a bit more, I guess, blue purple. So those are Grunge. Then we have the color Jet, and that is once again from my KVD Metal Matte palette, as well as my Urban Decay the black palette. Both of these palettes have previously been Pan Nat palettes. I'll put a link up in the cards for the Metal Matte one for your entertainment. But Jet from the Metal Matte palette is the black shade just here. That is Jet. It is just a matte black. Ooh, that is a deep, dark, nice matte black. Then from the Urban Decay, the black palette, all the shades are black based. And Jet is actually this purple based black shade. This one right here. So it's still black based, but it has a, let me actually add a little bit more to that swatch. This is a very old palette, but it has got more of a purple base to the black rather than the, I guess, the black shade. The next shade, which is the shade Lime, actually has three versions of the color. So first up, we have the Earthy palette. This is from Beauty Bay. And Lime is, where is it? This shade just down here It is a metallic green color. This color looks gorgeous. It is very, very gorgeous. I love that shade. I'm going to assume, before I go into these next two palettes, that lime is a green shade no matter what, because I would think it would be. This is the I Heart Revolution Tasty Avocado palette. And the shade lime is this green shade down here. This one is a matte green, and it's a bit more of a pastel green, but it still fits the theme of lime. And last but not least, we have the Sample Beauty Equalizer palette. And lime is this shade up here. It is also a metallic color, so it is a lot more like the one from the Beauty Bay, except it is a different shade. So this one has probably got a bit more blue in it, while this one seems to have a bit more yellow in it. But these are the three shades of lime. Then we have the shade Love, and that comes from these two palettes. First up, we have the Revolution, the Emily Edit, the Needs palette, and also the Kaleidoscope palette. So this palette's broken, so I'll just pull that apart. Love for this one is this shade down here. It's definitely what I would consider a primer setting shade, or a blending out shade, kind of neutral and nude. And for me, it just kind of blends into my skin tone. Then from the Kaleidoscope palette, Love is this red shade down the end here. This one here, I am not surprised. Love generally can be represented by the color red, so it is this red one. You cannot really see this shade here. Oh, I'm just putting eyeshadow everywhere, but this one is the two Love shades. Then we go back to my Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette, as well as this Revolution or XX Revolution Matrix palette. This palette has also never been used, but the shade we're looking at is Machine. In this palette, Machine is this green shimmer shade right here. This is it here. Oh, that is a gorgeous color. That really fits that look from the front of the palette, actually. Oh, that color is gorgeous. But let's have a look in the Matrix palette. Like I said, I have never used this palette before. So, Machine, another one of those palettes where the product names is only printed on the plastic. I do not like that for me. Machine is, I guess, not surprisingly, this green shade down the bottom here. So it is another metallic green color. That looks really pretty as well, actually. Let me swatch that out. Ooh, that was nice and smooth. That is a gorgeous color, and it is a little bit, I think, duochromy. It kind of shifts from a yellow green to more a, I guess, lime green shade. But those two colors are Machine, and they are both gorgeous. Then for the shade Milk, we have this NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in the shade Milk, and also a shade from this Fruity Pebbles palette. I am hoping that that means it's a white shade. Let's start with that one. I'm thinking, yeah, it is the color that I thought it would be. It's not exactly white. It's more like a metallic white, metallic silver white. But that is more the color I imagine for the shade Milk. And then this NYX pencil is just a basic white jumbo eye pencil. So there's no surprises there with these two shades representing milk. Next up, we have another lipstick eyeshadow combo, and this is for the shade Monster. So you won't be surprised of the two products I've pulled out. First up here, we have the Classic Horrors LA Splash Classic Horrors liquid lipstick in the shade Monster. This is a like army green color. It is gorgeous, and this packaging is just divine. But let me pull it out. It's a bit sticky up in there. This is it right there. It is a bit of a sludgy green color, but I absolutely adore it. I really need to get use on this before it goes bad. I might consider actually putting this into my plan to pan. And then from this Revolution Harley Quinn palette, Monster, like I said, the shades are printed on the paper, which I hate. Oh, Monster is this baby pink color down here. This is more the color I would have imagined doll to suit, but it is the shade Monster. So these are very much different colors, and I do think that for Monster in, I guess, the Classic Horrors sense, this color here definitely represents Monster very well. And I guess for a Harley Quinn sense, this pink represents it for Harley Quinn. We're definitely getting some repeat offender palettes, and this is for the shade Moss. So first up in the Beauty Bay Earthy palette, Moss is, where is it? This shade up here. It is another metallic green, but it has flecks of gold in it. Oh, these metallics are gorgeous. So that actually is very similar to that machine color we were looking at earlier. But that is Moss from the Beauty Bay palette. Then over in the metallic matte palette, Moss is actually a matte shadow. It is this green shadow right here. I'm not surprised that this represents Moss. Let me get a bit more of a swatch going. And that is the shade right there. And I think both shades represent Moss quite well. Next up, we have another threefer, and this is for the shade Nightmare. So we have my LA Splash Classic Horror palette, my Revolution Beautiful Darkness palette, and my Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette. So let's have a look in here. So Nightmare from here is this beautiful purple shade. This is what it looks like. Oh, that is a gorgeous purple shimmer. Then from the Beautiful Darkness palette, Nightmare, if I remember correctly, is it is a mustard color. So this one is a lot more mustard yellow, though these do look quite nice together. And then from the Classic Horrors palette, I think Nightmare is a red shade. Nightmare, yes, is this deep browny red shade. These shades do feel very chalky in this palette, but it is a dark red shade. So two mattes and a shimmer. That is an interesting color story for the color Nightmare. Then for Orange County, this is maybe a little bit of a cheat, as they are both NYX Liquid Suede products, but they are both in two different formulas. So first up, we have the NYX Liquid Suede in the shade Orange County. It is obviously a orange lipstick. And then we have the, I guess, cream version of this product. So it is also a suede matte lipstick. And I definitely think that these NYX suedes, the cream version, really look like suede the lipsticks do. But let me give you a swatch of this one. It is a very similar shade. They are basically exactly the same shade, but one is in a cream formula and one is in a liquid lipstick formula. And I'll say that though you know I previously loved the NYX liquid suedes, I'll have a video up in the cards of all my NYX liquid suede swatches, I'm really starting to lean towards cream liquid, words today, cream lip products. So I think that I might even prefer this one. And texture wise, I'd say that this one feels like suede, where this one obviously is still a real like liquidy hot mess. Then we're back in the Emily Edit the Needs, as well as this palette from Revolution, the Celestial Dreams palette for the shade Passion. We'll start off with my broken palette here. And Passion is this shade here that I don't really understand in the great scheme of things within this palette. It is this like black with pink shimmer in it. It's a really pretty shade. I just think that it's not something that's easily used with this color story. So it feels so out of place for me, but that is what it is. So Passion is this shade from the Emily Edit the Needs. And then from the Celestial Dream palette, these are much more like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Pastel shades. So Passion is this orange shade up here, this pastel orange. These are very different shades and they do not match at all. But those are the two Passions in my collection. Then we're staying in the Emily Edit the Needs palette and also bringing back the Kaleidoscope palette. So the shade we're looking at in this one is Peace. So Peace, where is it? Along here. Peace is this shade just here in the Kaleidoscope palette. It's like a shimmery, it's kind of like an orange, but it's got a touch of red in it. So that's that one. And Peace from the Emily Edit palette is more like a matte orange, similar to what Passion was in that past palette. So this is a nudie matte orangey color just there for the shade Peace. Definitely very different shades. Then we have the shade Poppin'. That one is also a lip product versus a palette and eyeshadow. So this lip product is my NYX Slip Tease, obviously in the shade Poppin'. It is a lip oil style product. They have an interesting smell to them. And I will say that when I first used this product, it was a lot more opaque than I imagined it was going to. But this is the shade Poppin'. Then from my I Heart Revolution, this is the Popcorn palette. And I also have never used this palette before. Oops. So, oh, that had double. That's interesting. So, Poppin' from this one is, where is it? Poppin' is actually this blue shade up here, this metallic blue. That is not what I imagined popping would be, but that is the shade Popping from the Popcorn palette. Then we jump back to the Kaleidoscope as well as the Beauty Bay Nikki Tutorials palette. And this is for the shade Pride. Pride in this one is this pink down here. It's a metallic pink color. That's it right there. Let me swatch it. That is not the best swatch. Let me get some more product on my finger. That is it right there. And then in the Nikki Tutorials palette, Pride is also a metallic pink. This palette is so awkward with the little mirrors on the side, but it's also a metallic pink. It's this shade down here. Let me see if I can get a swatch without exposing everything with this mirror. Okay, oops. That was a very soft shade. I actually just dented that up a bit. But these two are actually very similar shades. The only difference is this has got a bit more glitter sparkle to it, and this is a bit more like metallic, I guess is probably the way to explain it. But they're both very pretty pink shades. Then we jump down to the shade Queen, and that's coming from my Revolution Game of Thrones palette as well as the Sample Beauty Equalizer palette. Let's start off with the Sample Beauty palette. Queen is a red shade. It's a matte red just over here. That is the shade. And matte reds are very hard shades to make. So that is it right there. That is a really, really poppin' red shade. Then from the Forever Flawless Mother of Dragons palette, my Game of Thrones palette, Queen, this is a very warm toned palette. Queen is this gold shade over here. I'm not even surprised that you would have Queen being a very gold shade. Oh, that shade is gorgeous. These two shades definitely represent Queen. Then we have another lip product eyeshadow combo, and this is for the shade Silk. Silk in the Metal Matte palette is this white shade over here. No, it's not, sorry. Silk is actually this light purple shade over here, like a dusty purple or dusty rose type color. That is a terrible swatch. I think that these shades, this palette is slowly starting to die as I don't getting much payoff from it. But that is it just there. But I really don't want to think about that. And then from this Maybelline Lifter Gloss, this is also in the shade Silk. And I actually have not used this before. So let's... It smells like coconuts. Let's put this out. Ooh, that is a very nice shade. I definitely look forward to giving that one a try. They're kind of similar, I guess, in their undertones, but this one is a lot more purple and this is a lot warmer. So this is quite cool and this is quite warm. Then we're back in the Popcorn palette and the Cocoa Pebbles palette for the shade Snack. First up in the Cocoa Pebbles palette, Snack is this orange up here. Can you see that one? This real bright orange shade. That is a lovely shade for the color Snack. And then in this Popcorn palette, Snack is... Ooh. Snack is actually this shade up here. I was a bit worried for a second because this one down here is called Snack Cart. So I thought maybe I'd put it in my inventory wrong. But this one up here is actually called Snack, which is a greeny purple, a greeny blue shade. So that is it right there. That is a interesting color combo for the shade Snack. The next one actually incorporates a nail polish, and this is for the shade Solar. I don't really want to do a swatch of this polish, so I'm just going to swatch the Total Eclipse palette, and then we'll hold up the nail polish next door to it. So from this, if I can get this plastic out of the way, I really probably just need to remove these plastics, but I'm just not good at that stuff. So the solar shade from this one is this kind of gold pinky light shade here. This is the shade Solar, that one right there. And then the nail polish Solar is this one here. So I would say that this one is a lot cooler. It's the same kind of, same kind of premise, but this one has got more purple in it and this one has got more orange in it. But they are definitely very similar concepts. Then we're back into the metallic matte and the tasty avocado palette for the shade Stone. So from the tasty avocado palette, Stone is this like brownie taupey silver shade over here, like almost like a gunmetal taupe. That is it right there. While Stone within the metal matte palette is a matte shade, and it is a lot more grey. It is that gunmetal grey shade, quite a lot more so. So I would say out of the two of these, this one here has got a little bit more green in it, a bit more of a taupey green, while this one is a lot more grey. It's got a lot more of the black base in it. And then for the shade Tea Rose, we actually have two non-eyeshadow products. First up, we have this e.l.f. matte liquid lipstick, obviously in the shade Tea Rose. It is a gorgeous rose, dusty rose color. And then we have this Milani blush. This is also obviously in the shade Tea Rose. And since last time I used it, which was in my Girl Fix Your Face project, this whole little blush thing has like come out of the packaging. So it kind of sits in there and then it falls out and it's not fabulous. But I really do like this shade, of blush. And it is also a very, that is not the best swatch. That was a terrible swatch. Let me see right there. It's also a dusty rose shade, but it isn't as, I guess, purple. It's a bit more peach compared to the lipstick. Then for the shade Thriller, we go back into the Popcorn palette as well as the 80s Remix palette. So this is the I Heart Revolution Popcorn palette. And the shade Thriller is this purple shade just up here. This is it right there. It matches the color of the packaging a little bit, that one on the front there. But that is Thriller from the Popcorn palette. Then from the BH Cosmetics 80s Remix palette, Thriller, I like this palette a lot more because it does not have a mirror. I know that sounds really silly, but I'm actually not a huge fan of the mirrors. Thriller is this red shade down here because I don't really use the mirrors in palettes. Sometimes it's useful when you're traveling, but even then I prefer, wow, this is a poppin' red, but I prefer to use an actual mirror. But these are the two shades for Thriller. I definitely understand why this bright red shade here is the shade for Thriller from the 80s Remix palette. And if you know, you know. And last but not least, we have the shade Voodoo, and that is in the LA Splash Classic Horrors and the Book of Magic palette. Let's swatch out the one from the Classic Horror palette first. So for this one, Voodoo is this purple shade down here. I'm not surprised they went with this purple shade for the shade name Voodoo. That is it right there. Then over in the Book of Magic palette, Voodoo is also a purple, but it is a little bit of a deeper, darker purple. That is it there. And that is most likely because, oh, that is a nice shade there. This Classic Horrors palette is a little bit more like dusty pastel colors, while the Book of Magic palette tends to have the deeper, darker colors in it. But these are the two purple shades that represent voodoo. Wow, this was a long video. And I have used up so many little cotton rounds just cleaning my hands off of swatches, and still I feel like it's a bit stained. I will say, when I thought to do this video, I didn't imagine I would actually have this many products in my collection that have the same shade name. But it was very interesting to go through and compare shades to shade names, especially because overall there isn't really that much consistency in regards to what is given a certain name. I can very much understand in some of the themed palettes why something is named that way, because then it suits the theme. And in others, I don't really see why they called some of the shades what they called them. Like that pinky color for Bubbles, that did not make sense to me. So this has been a very long video, so we are going to wrap this up now. So this was my Rose by Any Other Name comparison of products with similar shades names within my collection. I'm Verity, wishing you a happy holiday season, and now finally to the outro.